Hey, welcome back. I'm Steven at Flatlander Forge, and today we're going to take this 1/2-inch square bar and we're going to forge a leaf out of it. So forging a leaf is a fun exercise and it's great for beginners. It teaches you how to forge a point, teaches you how to draw out material, and it teaches you how to, basically manipulate steel in a lot of other ways. So let's get crafting. Okay, so the first step in forging a leaf is to start to forge your first taper. So forging this taper, I'm going to come down, hit, rotate 90, hit, rotate 90, hit. Keep going back and forth on it and forge that down into a point. So that's the first step. We've got our point delineated. Now we're going to need to section off a chunk that will become the leaf. So for this, you hang it over the edge of the anvil and you do a set down on it. So there's the initial set down. Then you want to hold it up 90 degrees to that. Back into the fire. So now I'm just going to start separating out what kind of the stem of the leaf is going to be. So I'm using the radius of my anvil to draw the material out. This is going to be worked down into a stem, and then I'll eventually be hitting this flat and forming this down into a preform for the leaf. So this is just mild steel, so you can work it at a pretty dull red to planish it and even your hammer marks out. So when I do start to spread this out, I'll have it up on end like that, and I'll start making direct blows down, and it will start to make this diamond come out and become more of a paddle shape. Okay, so this is the initial shape of the leaf, but I want the side of this leaf to get drawn out farther, so I'm going to use my cross peen to pull the material sideways. And you got to really pay attention to do this evenly, because it's really easy to get it off-centered and have one side bigger than the other. So like I've said before, it's really important to clean this scale off your steel. It forms a pretty hard barrier on there, and it forges down into your steel. Okay, using this peen to come in here. So that's one side that's been pulled out. I try to keep this midline and pull that way. Then I'll start on the other side and pull it out that way. Okay, so there, that's a pretty good leaf right there. I really like the hammered finish that this peen gives. I really like the organic look of those hammer marks. So now I'm going to use my hot cut. I'm going to cut this steel off right here, and I'm going to work on drawing this out a little bit more and do something a little decorative with it. So when using the hot cut, I like to start my cut. When you start to get close to getting all the way through, start lightening your taps up. Then when you do get it close, it'll just break right off. All right, I got the leaf forged out. I have the stem portion drawn out and segmented out. The stem is still a square, so I'm going to start forging that down into a circle. And to forge square to circle, you want to turn it into an octagon next. So I'm going to start forging directly down on top of these crisp lines of the square, and then I'll kind of start rotating it on the anvil and just working it out into a square. There's guys that do this and they're making gates or decorative whatever, and they're forging out hundreds and hundreds of these. So this is a really common part of ornamental blacksmithing, is knowing how to forge leaves and doing it fastly. Once again, I'm using the edge of this anvil to slowly work this material out. This is now drawn out. It's tapered down into a square. This next heat, I'm going to start forging it round, and I'm going to get this section up here drawn down a little more. I've got the corners of this square knocked off, so it's more of an octagon of sorts. So now I'll start by continually rotating this as I'm hammering, and it'll start to forge it round. So in that heat, I got the whole thing forged almost round. Now I'll just focus on this section leading into the leaf here. It still needs a little bit of work. All right, now this whole stem is forged out round. I'm gonna work on getting this tip forged out into a finer taper, and I'll do some sort of little scroll on the end of that. And I think I'll turn this into a bottle opener of sorts. So, I mean, this could be something that you put in, like, you know, a pot of flowers, or just have it for whatever. So this is more of just a practice of displaying how to do a point, how to do, you know, drawing out and whatever, but we'll turn this into something functional and see if I can make a bottle opener out of it. On my next heat, I'm going to just start making a really tight little scroll on the end of this point. So there, I just tapered it out into a point and scrolled it around over itself. By no means is it a perfect scroll, but for what I'm doing, that's great. So now I'm going to start doing a little bit of twist in here. I'm going to incorporate almost an S curve, and it's going to have a spot where it can catch a bottle lid. So these are my real high-tech scrolling tongs, which is just some rounded over needle nose, but you can use these to kind of tweak your circles in here. So now I've got this stem kind of twirled around how I want it. Now I'm going to make a little lip that's going to be a set down that I'll pull out of this stem. That'll be what will actually catch underneath your lid of your bottle. I'm using this punch that I'm just going to get in here. So yeah, now I'm just going to heat it up again. I'm going to work on refining this leaf a little bit more. So when you are forging leaves, if you are working on the tang a lot, your tongs can kind of mar up the surface of your leaf. So I always save that for last to do my final texturing after everything else is done. This is all forged to finish right now, and no matter how much you brush things, there's still going to be some degree of scale buildup on there. So I'm going to just take this wire wheel here and just kind of get in there and knock all the scale off of all the surfaces and get in all the crevices. And then after I get all that cleaned off, I'll stick it in the forge a little bit, get it 800-900 degrees, and then put it in oil. And that oil kind of burns on there and gives it a nice protective coating from rust and kind of seals up the steel a little bit. So let's get after it. On my surfaces that I don't want to get marred up by the teeth of my jaws, I like to just keep a little piece of leather that I wet molded this over. So I'll just kind of slide this in there, and then I'll clamp it with that leather in there, and that'll protect the surfaces, and it gets a really good purchase on whatever you're grabbing on that leather. All right, here's the finished product here. So this is a great exercise for beginning blacksmiths. It teaches you a lot of the fundamentals. It teaches you forging points, forging tapers, teaches you hammer control. And it just allows you to put a little creativity in it, put your own flair on things. Yeah, this is a great project to get started on. So here it is. I made it somewhat functional. Hopefully this will act as a bottle opener. If it doesn't, I'll be able to tweak it some. Unfortunately, I didn't have a bottle out here to try it on. But yeah, Here it is. Hey guys, thanks for watching. This is a really fun project for me to do tonight. It's really nostalgic. It brings me back to the beginning of when I started blacksmithing, and just even a project like a simple leaf, it taught me a lot about the fundamentals of blacksmithing. If you liked what you saw tonight, please feel free to like and subscribe, and you can keep up with my future videos. And if there's anything you'd like to see me do or challenge me with, please drop a comment below, and we'll try to work that into our videos. And you can stay up to date with all my builds on my Instagram. That's @Flatlander Forge. Keep crafting.